Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
And I'm Simon Mann.
And we're looking back at the three one-day matches between England and the West Indies, which England handed out an emphatic 3-0 win, just concluded. I've just rushed back from the Oval, actually, having seen England win that match in a raining, the ball was raining down on the crowd with a lot of sixes towards the end of that England run chase. And we're going to look at the IPL final, which was also today, the delayed IPL final, and the success for the RCB team, their first ever IPL victory. And of course, a great moment for Virat Kohli, who's never won it. Actually, it's lovely to see that, really. I mean, you saw the final stages of that, Simon. Quite emotional from Virat, I think, wasn't it?
Well, he was down on his knees, and inevitably the camera was focusing on him. I mean, they always take an opportunity to focus on Virat Kohli. You know, the cameras wherever he is, whether he's fielding, batting, in the dugout, or wherever he is. But yeah, he's been there for 18 years. It was a difficult day for me today because I was trying to watch two games at the same time. I was trying to watch England against West Indies. I was trying to watch the IPL final as well. Well, let's talk more about the IPL final later in the podcast, and we should also talk about great success for Andy Flower as well, who got one over Ricky Ponting, shades of 2010-11 in the Ashes series. Okay, Ponting was captain and Andy Flower was England coach, but let's concentrate first on England West Indies. So 3-match series comes to an end. Yeah, a couple of thumpings handed out by England to West Indies. A really emphatic win today. The only really good game was in Cardiff, actually, and that was a game West Indies had an opportunity in, but kind of blew it with the bat and then couldn't quite seal it with the ball, thanks to Joe Root's magnificent innings. My goodness, that was a high-class, ruthless innings on Sunday. Today, though, yours, how did you get to the ground today? How did you get to the Oval?
I did actually take a line bike, in fact, if that's what you're angling towards, because I know some of the England team did, or most of the England team did. I didn't get there right for the start because I saw it was raining, actually. So I got there just in the rain break, and I went line bike, tube, line bike, and it got me there in about 40 minutes. So, and I took a line bike back as well, same way. So I loved it. I love that way of travelling, actually, and England probably enjoyed it too. But the West Indies didn't enjoy their journey to the ground, did they?
No, I mean, sorry to labour the point. Apologies for this, but West Indies took your approach to that Lord's final, didn't they? Back in the 1980s, they turned up late. I mean, it does seem extraordinary, doesn't it?
It does seem extraordinary, and actually, what is quite interesting about that, Stuart Broad was commenting about that, and he said, he was a bit sympathetic to Shea Hope, the West Indies captain, because he said, his head must be just spinning with stuff. Or when they started the match, would they get there on time? Who was going to win the toss? What to do at the toss? What team to select, etc. And then it suddenly has to go out and bat. And that's actually tough when you've suddenly got to focus on, all these bowlers, these marauding bowlers who want to get your wicket and bounce you out, which is exactly what happened to him. And actually, Broady said it's much easier if you're in a bit of a panic to all take the field together first. And you can sort of relax and get into the game. And that's where I was lucky in that NatWest final in 1988 when I was late. I was able to go out and field straight away. If I'd had to open the batting or batted at number 3, I would have been a total, emotional mess. But because you could get into the game being on the field, as England were able to, and they weren't late anyway, it was just a nightmare for the West Indies today. It started badly and ended badly, and it wasn't great in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be lots of people listening to this who play, club cricketers who try to get to a venue on time. And I don't know, in London, it can be a bit of a nightmare, even on a Saturday, trying to get around the North Circular to a match. If the game is sort of 15, 20 miles away, you end up with sort of stragglers getting to the ground, 6 people ready at the toss, and the captain looking at his watch and trying to get on his phone and see where's the rest of the team. I mean, lots of club teams will have had that, but of course it's not so high pressure. This is top level international sport, as I pointed out many times before. And yeah, you're right. I mean, West Indies put into bat, they could have done with winning the toss, couldn't they, and getting out in the field. And they were 28 for 3 in no time, and they did recover to some extent. And actually, you could say 250 off 40 overs is actually not a bad score, is it? But I mean, England were just, again, like Root on Sunday, just absolutely ruthless. And it was Jamie Smith's turn tonight. And actually, really quite important innings for Jamie Smith when you think that he has been bumped up the order. He batted at 3 in the Champions Trophy. In this one-day series, he's been opening. He didn't succeed in the Champions Trophy. He hasn't really succeeded in this competition. Okay, he got a few runs at Edgbaston, he hasn't really gone on. But today, that was devastating, wasn't it? 58 of his runs coming in boundaries, 10 fours and 3 sixes. And England 121 for 1 after 10 overs. And, they could canter to victory after that, couldn't they? Joss Butler finished it off with some big hitting, 40-odd off 20 balls. England winning with 10 overs to spare, chasing 250. It's utterly brutal and ruthless, isn't it?
It was an annihilation, actually. And I felt sorry for the bowlers, really, because those fast bowlers, those West Indies fast bowlers, Alzarri Joseph, etc., they're good bowlers. Jaden Seals bowling for Sussex earlier in the season. He's a good bowler, excellent bowler. They're both test class bowlers, and they were absolutely flayed remorselessly to all parts. And I just thought, I was trying to think, where the hell would I bowl? I think the one thing that Alzarri Joseph's a disappointment to me because he's got so much talent, and yet I think he throws in the towel a bit. If somebody gets after him, he starts bowling. Today, he just seemed to bowl loads of slower balls. And why? If you can bowl 90 miles an hour and you can get the lift that you can get from not far short of a length, use it. Even if you are getting top edged for 6 or hooked for 6, be aggressive. But he was a bit tame, I thought, today. But the thing is, that's the impact this type of batting has. And actually, Jamie Smith. It's funny because I was saying to a chap, I was up in the top of the new stand at the Oval, looking down, on the pitch. A great place to watch the game, actually, from the top of the JM Finn stand. Magnificent view of the City of London and the carnage going on down below on the pitch. And Jamie Smith, I was reminding someone that he played against my daughter 6 years ago in school cricket and got 100, of course, in a school match. But, she said at the time, he looks fairly good. Today,
fairly good.
Today, he was like Jason Roy or Johnny Bairstow, the way they played early on. Because although, he hit the ball in the air a lot, it was very cultured, and it was quite kind of controlled hitting. It wasn't kamikaze or reckless. He just picked his spots. If they pitched it up, it went back over the bowler's head, and if they bowled short, he just deposited it miles into the road on one occasion. It went, in fact, one ball went into Archbishop Tennyson's school, which is that iconic landmark on one side of the Oval and the gas holder on the other side of the Oval, and they're totally transformed. Apparently, Archbishop Tennyson's school is now closed. And that's it. And it will be a tower block in 10 years' time. And of course, they're now building flats inside the gas holder. So the whole kind of image of the Oval has changed. But it didn't put Jamie Smith off. And wow, his hitting was absolutely mighty, and it made Duckett's job easy. Just flipped a few 4s and 6s, and Jamie Smith just kind of absolutely walloped the bowling to all parts, and that was the game, really, wasn't it? The game was pretty much over.
Yeah, I think within 10 overs, 10 overs, that was it. England had just broken the back of it. It was very hard for West Indies to get back in the game after that, despite making it a reasonable score, despite cobbling together a reasonable score. It does help, I suppose. Jamie Smith looking for a score helps when you play on your own ground, used to the Oval conditions.
It was a great pitch, actually.
Belting pitch, absolute belting pitch, wasn't it? It's hard enough for bowlers in white ball cricket, but when you play on a pitch like that as well. Lovely. It looked like a lovely surface for batting on. And
it was exploited by all the England batters. And actually, for a little while, I was stood with the legendary Colin Croft. Remember his initials, CEH Croft. And I'm going to post a picture, a couple of images of his bowling action, actually, in his face when he was a player, because he was the most horrible bowler to face you could imagine. And he had that extraordinary action where as he kind of shuffled up to the pitch, to the crease, his left leg splayed out almost to the return crease, and he angled the ball in from very wide on the crease, but mostly in at your head or your chest. He didn't pitch too many up, and he was very fast and mean as well. A lovely bloke now. He said, I'm 72 now. I can't even remember how I bowled. But I said, well, come on, why did you bowl with that action? And he said it was because he learned to bowl on the beach. And if you think about it, when you try to bowl on the beach in the Caribbean, it slopes down to the sea. And if you tried to bowl with a conventional English type action on the beach with both feet aligned, sort of, your back foot and your front foot more or less in line, you fall over, you'd overbalance forwards into the sea almost. So he learned to bowl with the left leg splayed out up the hill, if you like, on the beach to give him a bit more purchase so he could, bowl a bit quicker. And that's how he learned his action. And actually, that's what the West Indies needed today was not necessarily Colin Croft, but someone with a unconventional action, because they're all got lovely, smooth, fluid actions, right arm over, all about the same pace. And, the batters just hit through it. They needed someone with a bit more mystery or awkwardness. And, so that was one thing that they're missing, I think. Their bowlers they're all a bit the same. And England just treated them like bowling machines.
Yeah, I mean, a few things. I'll come back to Colin Croft in a moment because we were talking about him actually at the One Day International in Cardiff on Sunday, off air, not actually on air. But I actually thought Alzari Joseph on Sunday was magnificent. He really rolled back the years. I mean, he bowled like the wind on Sunday, and there was that thrilling piece of cricket where he dropped one in short and it flew over the batter's head, and Shea Hope leapt and couldn't quite get it. Tipped it over the bar and it went for 4 byes. And I was thinking, this reminds me of the 1980s, and that was, of course, when West Indies had 3 or 4 in the same team that could do something like that. So there was sustained hostility from both ends. I mean, he did his actually level best to help West Indies win that game on Sunday. I thought he was magnificent. But we were actually talking in the box off there. Roland Butcher was there, Victor was there, Vic Marks, and we were saying, I said, of the West Indies fast bowlers from 1975 to say 1995, 2000, who were the sort of 1, 2? And we thought about it for a bit, and in the end we actually all agreed. We all came up separately with the same top 2. So I thought Marshall 1 and Curtly Ambrose 2, even though they're all fantastic bowlers. A lot of them, it's very hard to separate them. And Roland said, have a look at Colin Croft though, because he took his wickets, at great regularity. Didn't play that much
and low average.
Yeah, low average and a very good strike rate. And he said, he's right up there because Colin didn't play as much as the rest, and he went on a rebel tour as well, so there was that aspect to it. And Victor was in the box. He said, "Oh, you showed that Colin Croft. He didn't like facing E."
No,
he was horrible to face.
And neither did I. And Victor was a much better batsman than me. But the thing is about Croft, he had that menacing run up. And that horrible kind of expression, a sort of expression of doom, like I'm gonna kill you almost. I mean, that's the expression he had on his face.
Well, I don't think he minded hitting batters, did he? I mean,
no,
I think he's
and actually,
he kind of relished it.
What you thought when you were a tail ender, the only way I'm going to be able to play this is because he's angling it in really awkwardly from wide of the crease and it's coming up at your throat. The only way to play it is either get right inside the line, go across to off stump and try and play it, down to fine leg, or back away. And it's a natural instinct, if you're not a very good player, to back away. Normal bowlers, if it was me and I'm bowling and someone backs away against me, God help them, I would aim at the stumps because they're leaving the stumps unprotected. In fact, I did that to Jonathan Agnew on one occasion when he backed away. He said, I owe it to my side to be fit to bowl, and got out of line, had a bit of a hack, and I just aimed at the stumps and bowled him out. Croft didn't do that. If you backed away, he still aimed at you, which just showed he was a total sadist. And I said that to him today, and he went, well, no, I didn't really mean anything. But, I agree with you that the best 2 bowlers were Marshall and Ambrose. I'd agree with you. But the most horrible to face was Croft and Sylvester Clarke.
Yeah, I mean, they all say Sylvester Clarke, the old sort of county players, they still talk about him now in hushed tones, because I think he was another one that, he was quite random, I think, as well, wasn't he? For some reason, he took against certain people, and, he might be quite gentle against some, but he would rush in and bounce whatever out of others. So, yeah, they all talk about Sylvester Clarke like that, and Colin Croft as well. I mean, they had some fantastic bowlers. I mean, Garner, Roberts, Mikey Holding, wonderful bowlers.
Yeah.
Courtney Walsh as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Patterson. I mean, it
And
was so.
actually, there's a sort of there's a similarity there between Croft, Ambrose, Walsh, Garner, who all bowled with slightly open-chested actions and mainly angled it in. And actually, Simon Wilde wrote an interesting piece in the Times this week about
Mm.
the modern trend for beyond the vertical bowlers, the likes of Pat Cummins, Jasprit Bumrah, whose arms come from 11 o'clock rather than 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. So they're angling the ball in at the batter more than, say, the Andersons and other bowlers who have a slightly more higher action or more round arm type action. And those West Indies bowlers did in the main angle it in, and it just made it your body was a target, and so were the stumps, and they didn't worry so much about getting the ball to move away and get the edge. So those days are gone, of course, and I think it's harder for bowlers, fast bowlers now in one-day cricket because there's a few reasons. I mean, one is that they can't bowl a high bouncer anymore because that's wided. They can't bowl too wide outside off stump. That's wided. They can't bowl even slightly down the leg side for like a leg stump Yorker because that's wided. And they top edges now go for six, whereas probably 20 years ago, those short balls from those great old bowlers, some would have gone for six, but some would have just gone off the splice and lobbed up for a catch. Now that very rarely happens, and you've got batters like Butler going across, or Duckett going across and ramping their good length ball for six over the keeper's head. I mean, the skill levels of these modern batters are astonishing.
Yeah. How much helmets involved in the
Well, a lot.
evolution of
Yeah, I
batting
think
as
that's
well?
absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure helmets have
But
a.
there were helmets in the
They
1980s, weren't
were, but
there?
you got injured from helmets. You got Roland Butcher was a classic case. He got hit through the helmet, side pieces only, smashed in the face. Broken cheekbone. Many incidents of batters getting back quite badly injured, not just facially, but broken arms, broken wrists, broken fingers. You name it. They got broken. The protection is better, but undoubtedly batters are just they're just quicker. They're more prepared. They're more geared up for playing short bowling. There's no fear anymore. They take it on, and if they get hit on the head, they just laugh it off.
How about things like the evolution of the bowling machine, but also the dog thrower as well, so you can really wang it down, so you can get that sustained practice against quicker bowling as well. So your reactions are sharp as well.
Undoubtedly, that helps. I mean, actually, I think the dog thrower, the sidearm, has been slightly reduced in use now. And I know Harry,
Right, okay.
for instance, Harry Brook prefers just the normal throwdowns because I think that when you have those sidearms, those dog throwers, they come from such a height that actually the ball bounces quite nastily off those, higher than it would from a conventional bowler. So, in fact, Mark Ratprakash, as batting coach, used to have a cut down version of the sidearm, and also he used to use it kneeling down, so that it was more like the normal height of a conventional bowler. So I think the sidearms have been taken out of the equation a bit, but they still would have had an impact. They made a difference to batters practicing methods and therefore ability.
So what about the West Indies as a team, and what about England's evolution? It looks as though they're going to go back to this aggressive way. I mean, it's Brendan McCullum's way, isn't it? And I mean, some of the tactics, Harry Brook, his mind's constantly ticking over, isn't it? In the field, you focus on it. He's always making adjustments in the field. I noticed that England have come up with this tactic of not with mainly when Bryden Cast is not with the new ball, but when he's bowling a bit later in the innings, he's bowling without a mid on, mid off, or long on, long off. So you pretty much as a batter, you know what's coming. It's going to be short. It's going to be round your ear holes. I suppose. I mean, I've seen him whack down the ground a few times. But I suppose that tactic is there to try to unsettle the play. You kind of got to play a shot, haven't you? And you can be taken out of your comfort zone. It might yield a few runs, but you're also out of your comfort zone because you can't just I mean, a one-day game, you can't just duck and weave and get out of the way of it the whole time. You have to take it on, and if you do take it on, it brings a degree of risk because you might top edge it. Actually, a bit like Joe Root did tonight against Alzari Joseph. It was a good ball that actually from Joseph. Banged it in. Root went to the pool, couldn't control it, top edged it out, and that's what you're looking to do as a pace bowler. What about that? What about Harry Root's captaincy? You were there today, and England's some of the tactics they're using.
Yeah, I think he's probably still at the moment a bit of a ball follower. I mean, there's a couple of times when I think the off spinner, Jacks, or perhaps it was Rashid, was hit through mid wicket and it evaded the deep mid wicket fielder, and he sort of shifted the mid wicket fielder a bit square and things like that. He had one. I noticed he had one fielding position at one point where a person was standing about 10 yards behind the bowler, behind
Yeah.
the umpire, almost directly behind the umpire. I like that. I think that makes a batter think. So yeah, I mean, generally, and he looks calm. He looks composed. Obviously, it helps if you're winning 3-0, but he looked generally. I thought as if he was quite comfortable in the role. He's taken some great catches, so he's obviously not distracted in any way from his fielding. And the bouncer sort of tactic, mixed feelings about it. I think the key to it is that it gives the team control. They know it's pretty hard to hit a fast short ball in front of the wicket. I mean, you can kind of get down the wicket and sort of flat bat it back over the bowler's head, but that's a pretty difficult shot to play and no guarantee of success. And because of the short ball, in the same way as those West Indies great bowlers of the 70s and 80s used the short ball a lot, not just to intimidate and take wickets, but also to restrict the scoring, because you can control the fact that the batter's having trouble scoring in front of the wicket. So you can put more fielders behind the wicket. And there's an element of, it's a bit of a lottery, isn't it? When you get a fast short ball and you have a flap at it, it could go for six. The top edge might fly for six, or it might just go straight up in the air. So there is an element of risk. The downside of it is it takes out of the equation bowled or LBW, doesn't it? So you're restricting your ways of getting batters out. But I think when you're weighing it up, the control it gives you, unless you've got a Heinrich Klaassen or someone who apparently I think has just retired, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which is a real shame, I think. But
And Glenn Maxwell this week.
Glenn Maxwell, yeah. Anyway, I mean, unless you are a player of that power, hooking and pulling is a hard thing to do consistently. So that's probably the main argument why England employ that tactic.
Anyway, so the big winners today, well, England, obviously, Jamie Smith with those runs at the top of the order, and the company that owns Line Bikes, definitely got plenty of publicity today. Just news looking ahead, Yoz, we're still in that white ball phase, and there are 3 T20 matches coming. I noticed actually the schedule for that. We've got Durham on Friday and Bristol on Sunday. 284 miles.
Must be flying.
Well, it's possible, I suppose. Yeah, they might fly down from the northeast to Bristol. But anyway, yeah, strange bit of scheduling that. Durham Friday night, Bristol Sunday, and then Southampton the final game. But further ahead, of course, the India series, which we've all got half an eye on, I think, and news in the last day or so that Gus Atkinson might be struggling to make that first test because of a hamstring injury. He's been pretty much a fixture for England now for a year. So what do they do? What are their options? The last test match, remember, it was Tongue, and it was Stokes, and it was Cook, and it was Atkinson. Chris Wokes has been playing again. He didn't play in the first Lions match, probably just as well. That pitch looks so flat. I think both teams made so huge scores, bags of hundreds. England had 300s. India had at least a couple. Both sides scored 550 plus. So there's Woke, and there's also Bryden Cass as well, to add to Matthew Potts. So that, they've got options, haven't they? There. What do you? If it doesn't look as though Atkinson is going to be fit, and hamstring injuries, they're horrible little niggling injuries, as we discussed many times in the past. So if no Atkinson, is it Wokes for Cook and Cass for Atkinson? Do you think?
I think Wokes for sure. Bearing in mind that first test at Headingley, and he bowled so well, didn't he, at Headingley in that Ashes Test of 2023 when he was called up after the first two tests. So I would definitely have Wokes. I was quite impressed with Josh Tongue myself at Nottingham at Trent Bridge. So I would, well, and he gives you that extra pace option as well. So I would certainly look at him. And I mean, Bryden Cast was bowling well in the winter, wasn't he? Until he had his injury. So yeah, I suppose Cast is. I don't think Potts has quite enough. He doesn't do enough with the ball for me. He's a really tremendous workhorse, willing, bowls all day, doesn't do that much with the ball. So I'd be looking for someone who can to take wickets. And he's looked a bit one dimensional in this one day series, but he again
Well, he
has
bowled really well on Sunday. Actually,
yeah,
on Sunday, actually, he bowled well with a new ball.
yeah.
He
I
bowled really
don't
well
like
with a
him
new
at the
ball.
death. I think his death bowling is flawed, but yeah, he's someone who again gives you a bit of thrust. So I'm thinking, Wokes will give you that control, and then Josh Tongue and Cast will give you that penetration. Hopefully, I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think those four probably that would be the four. If there's no Gus Atkinson, of course, we know there are other bowlers that are injured as well. Yeah, so Chris Wokes, Ben Stokes, Josh Tongue, and Bryden Cast, the four I think that seem most likely. Okay, well that's
Well,
England.
just before we leave the
Okay.
England one day series, I mean, I just want to say, a huge rap to Joe Root for that fantastic innings at Cardiff. I thought it was. I know he had a little bit of luck early on, and there could have been a run out and so on, but
An
it was
LBW shout as well.
it
It
was
was
it
very
was
close.
majestic innings that, and it was like a Test match innings at one day tempo. It was, and there was a few little bits of sort of improvisation, but in the main, it was just such a cultured innings, and so he just seemed so clear in how to play, and the bat, it was like a wand. It just magic the ball to the boundary in all directions. He hit that majestic straight six at one point, going down the wicket to a fast bowler and creamed him over the top. And wow, it was, and under the pressure of losing wickets at the other end as well. And he just looked as if he knew they were going to win, and there was no argument here. I'm just going to play my way, and we're going to get the runs. And it was pretty much faultless, actually. And the other innings I'd just like to mention quickly is that effort from Bethel at Edgbaston. After all that noise about him and all that kind of me going off on a hunch that he's going to be picked at number 3 for the first test against India, and Pope's going to drop down the order or get dropped altogether, and everyone going, well, how can that possibly be, including you? I mean, I just thought he played absolutely superbly. He just looked like he'd been playing one day cricket all his life, and he toyed with the bowlers, and he looked very smart. I like not just the skill, the talent, and the range of strokes, but reading the situation and knowing when was the right shot to play, and sort of analysing the bowlers and kind of working out where they're going to bowl. He looks like he knows where they're going to bowl before they've let go of the ball. And the great players have that ability to sort of, they almost seem to know where the ball's going to be, before it's arrived, and they just seem to be in position that bit earlier than most players. So, the sky's the limit for him. I think he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I don't disagree with the fact that sooner or later he will be batting towards the top of the order for England.
Such
Roland
a
Butcher
fence
was.
sitter, aren't you? I mean, you never
You did let me finish.
do you?
Let me finish. Roland Butcher was actually saying that during his formative years in Barbados, he was an opener. He wasn't a middle order player. He was an opener. So there's something else to throw into it. No, this is what I would say is that he will bat at the top of the order for England. I just don't see how. I think they kind of like painted themselves into a bit of a corner. I don't see how they can do it for the first Test match. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So I kind of I agree with you, but I don't see how they can do it for the first test. I think one way might have been if Bethel had come out and made reeled off 300s in the one day series, and so, the momentum would just be impossible to resist. But he did play well at Edgbaston. He flickered at Cardiff, didn't bat today. So it's not quite happened. So I mean, unless they just take an absolutely ruthless decision, and I don't see it happening. That's all I'm saying. I do agree with you that he's a player of immense promise. But having said that, he has never. He's incredible. Talking about a player who's never made 100 in professional cricket.
It's overrated. It's overrated.
Well,
He's made 96. So what?
yeah. Well, there we go. I mean, well, Jeffrey says people remember hundreds, don't they? Yeah, we certainly did.
Remembering his 96. It was pretty good.
Yeah, well, it was. Yeah.
No, it's right.
Okay, look. Let's take a quick break.
Bethel has been saying, hasn't he, that he was influenced by Virat Kohli, spent 2 months with the RCB. Of course, he's an RCB IPL winner now, Bethel, isn't he? Even though he wasn't actually there. He's been part of that RCB squad that has won the IPL today. We'll talk about that after the break. Just a quick reminder, by the way, talking of great fast bowlers of the past, Sid Lawrence, of course, terrible battle with MND, and we are raising money for him at our special live podcast on June the 18th at Bristol, the Square Club in Bristol, your home city, Simon. We're there with Vic Marks as well and Melissa Story. Please join us, 18th of June, 7 p.m. The theme is scary moments. I've got plenty. I'm sure you have. I know Vic has. And we'll talk about that in aid of Sid's cause. So please look out for tickets for that, which the link is at the bottom of this podcast notes. And we'll take a quick break and we'll be back afterwards to talk about the IPL final.
Right then. The IPL is started on the 22nd of March. It's finished on the 3rd of June. It's finally over. Some people might say, thank goodness for that. But there were 100,000 people in the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad today to watch Punjab Kings play RCB. It looks like a close match, Yoz. 6 runs. It was not. Not really. Punjab were in it a bit when they were batting. Phil Salt took a stunning catch. What a moment for him, actually. To drop for the England one-day side, not at the Oval today, but he was playing the IPL final. He got a few away at the start of the match, but he took a stunning catch to get rid of Priyansh Arya, caught on the deep mid-wicket boundary. One of those great modern catches, when you run and you knock it back inside the rope, and then you step over the rope and then you come back in, you take it back. What was so beguiling about it was how cool he looked. He did it with no fuss whatsoever. What a moment in the spotlight for him. Liam Livingston playing on the winning side as well. Josh Hazlewood's final over went for 20. He went 6, 4, 6, 6. We had the luxury of knowing that it made no difference whatsoever because Shashank Singh could not score off the first 2 balls of the over. Then he had 29 off the last over. And so as long as Hazlewood didn't overstep or bowl a 5 wides or anything like that, or a full toss that was hit for 6 and called as above waist height, which, as long as he didn't do that, they were home. And of course, Josh Hazlewood was never going to do that, was he? He's an experienced bowler, so he was celebrating, and Virat Kohli was celebrating. I saw the tweet from or whatever you call him on the RCB X handle. It said poetically, 18 years of storm for one perfect summer. There we go. They finally won it.
They've been in the playoffs before, RCB.
Oh yeah.
But they haven't got to this stage, and they certainly haven't won it, and neither had Punjab Kings, actually, in fact. So we were going to get a new winner on the trophy one way or the other. And it was all written in the stars, wasn't it? In the 18th season of the IPL, Kohli, who wears number 18, was going to win it with RCB, although, of course, he wasn't captain. And actually, how much did he get? Do you remember how much he was paid for in the first IPL, 2008? How much was he bought for?
I don't know. I can't remember. £2.50.
That's what they would have paid for me. No, actually, I'd have had to pay to play. $50,000 was what he was paid. $50,000 is what he was bought for. And the reason why it was so low was because at that time he was the under-19 India captain and hadn't really barely played. I think he might have played 1 or 2 one-day internationals, but he hadn't really made a name for himself properly. And actually, he was a bit of a wild card. No one wanted him. So RCB said, well, all right, we'll pay $50,000 for Virat Kohli. Meanwhile, MS Dhoni, Andrew Simons went for $1.2 million, I think, and Dhoni as well. So they were the first $2 million cricketers. But Kohli just went for 50 grand. So he's finally repaid their faith after 18 years.
Yeah, and he made some runs today. They played in the Kohli fashion. 40 odd, not particularly quickly. It's the way he plays. And there was just relatively consistent scoring from RCB. No one made a huge score. In fact, no one made 50, but they cobbled together a decent score. I actually thought the halfway stage, just looking at the surface, I thought 190. I reckon that, I thought it felt like as though it could be a winning score. And Punjab Kings, they made a good start. Then there was that salt catch, and they stumbled and fumbled their way forward. And they had a lot to do. Actually, at the same time as England were thrashing it around at the Oval, just about, Jamie Smith doing what he was doing and Ben Duckett at the start. England was scoring at the rate that the Punjab Kings needed to score in the last 7 overs of their innings. I think they wanted something like 80. Well, I've written it down somewhere. They wanted something like 86 off the last 6 overs, and they just didn't quite have the firepower to do it, despite the fact that Shashank, who actually made the best score in the match, 60 off 30 balls, was at the crease towards the end, but he just couldn't get away. He was actually not taking singles because he just wanted to be on strike, and they just ran out of time. And Ricky Ponting has gone to Punjab Kings. Basically, we said at the start of the competition, you go to Punjab Kings to fail as an IPL cricketer. Basically, that's what's happened over the years. But he's transformed them, and they finished top of the group. And they've lost in the final. They've lost by 6 runs. So they got close. But a great moment for Andy Flower, the coach of RCB. So he's now won the IPL, he's won the PSL, he's won the ILT20, and he's won the 100, and he's won the Ashes as well. I think I'll put that one at the top.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fantastic, and it shows he can adapt to the different formats. And in fact, he was the person I remember talking to him once. When he was coach of England and he'd won the Ashes with Andrew Strauss, and they were taking on a one-day series after that. And he said, I hate coaching in one-day cricket because it's really difficult. I just can't predict anything, and I can't. It's a very hard format to coach. But he's cracked the code now, and he's going to be well paid for the next few years, isn't he? What a lovely job! Nipping into a franchise for perhaps a month, or in the case of the IPL, a couple of months, and then go and put your feet up for a while. I suppose his next job will be the 100 again, but it's not a bad life, is it? Really?
Yeah, it's a great feather in your cap to be the winning coach. I mean, the players, clearly they get the focus, and Virat Kohli will inevitably get all the headlines. I noticed, though, of course, that he's relinquished the captaincy this season. So it's Rajat Patidar, who's lifting the trophy. He acknowledged the influence that Kohli has, but it was a change of captain and a change of strategy as well from RCB that has helped them win the IPL. They've gone away from these sort of top batters strategy.
They've had Chris Gale, they've had AB de Villiers.
De Villiers was there, actually. De Villiers was there today, cheering them on, thinking, well, I wasn't able to do this, but it's great to see my former franchise do it. There'll be a lot of celebrating in various parts of India because they're one of the glory franchises, aren't they? Really, the Chennai Super Kings, Mumbai Indians, and RCB. They are the glamour franchises really in the IPL, and finally they've managed to come up with a tournament, and finally the tournament is over.
It's going to be like painting a ship, isn't it? The IPL. If they add a couple of teams and have to play each other twice, it's going to be the end is going to be near the start of the next one. Of course, Bangalore was where it all started as well. The first ever IPL match was in Bangalore, as it was then, 2008. I was there, and Bangalore got smashed in that game for about 220 by Baz McCullum. And they've just never quite got it together since. So it's a nice story for that city, and city of Rahul Dravid as well, Anil Kumble. So it's been a city of great cricketers that they've produced, and yet haven't quite ever got over the line in this IPL. I mean, it's been good to watch in parts, hasn't it? I mean, you've probably watched more games than me. How would you sort of sum it up overall? Good tournament. I mean, it was interrupted in the middle, so I think we lost the thread a bit, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this IPL, but it did lose the thread when we had that 9-day break and players coming in, players going out. So, for example, Josh Butler not playing for the Gujarat Titans in a vital game. It's that sort of thing that undermined the tournament a bit. You could understand exactly why it happened. I think one of the things I actually liked about this season's IPL was there a great sort of ruthlessness among the teams. It's something I've mentioned before, that in the last IPL, there were 4 teams who were tied on 14 points. So it came down to net run rate to qualify for the last 4. And RCB were one of the teams that took their place last year in the top 4. And so it seemed what happened this season. Teams saying, "Well, look, net run rate is important." So we didn't have matches, didn't have so many matches going to the 20th over or the last ball of the 20th over, and so teams were just going, "Right, come on, we need to get on with this." And they were just taking the opposition down. They were absolutely ruthless, winning in 15, 16 overs. And I think that's right. I think that's the right way to play. I sort of, sometimes I just sense that games would sort of drift towards the conclusion. You almost felt as though the players were sort of playing their part in the drama of the audiences as well, their audience participation. How's this game going to go? Oh, it's into the 20th over. But this season, I seem just to be right. We want to win it. We want to knock these teams out, take them down, win as quickly and as comprehensively as we can. And I like that. I think that's the way you should play top level sport. Actually, don't give a sucker an even break. Take them down.
Well, yeah.
Take them down.
It's all about, and it's in my book I wrote with Manoj Badali actually about the business of cricket. Manoj Badali, the owner of the Rajasthan Royals, we use the word authenticity, and that is a very important aspect of sport. If you feel that one team isn't really trying, or there's an inevitability to the result, it's predictable. You lose interest in it as a result. So it's important. And that's why I suppose this one-day series between England and the West Indies was a bit disappointing, because apart from that Cardiff game, it was a bit of a whitewash. But at the same time, I felt England with the bat anyway had started that sort of redrawing the code, that a bit like they did in 2015. That 400 at Edgbaston, which is the same as 2015. It felt like a reboot almost, and it looked good.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Obviously, there are bigger tests to come, but I think just to extend the point from the IPL, what I liked about England today is that they just got the job done. You must have played lots of one-day cricket in the past where teams would kind of like use all the time available. I think it's that really. Games would go often to the wire, but yeah, and teams win it off the first ball of the last over because they had that time in hand. But actually, I think the best way to play it is just do what many teams in the IPL have done this season, and what England did today. Just said, right, we're going to take this down, and they did it with over 10 overs to spare and 7 wickets in hand. An absolutely ruthless shellacking, and that to me is authenticity.
Yeah, well, and I met a German on the tube on the way back who'd been at the game, first ever experience of cricket. He was impressed. He said, "I'll be back for more." It was very good. He said it was better than baseball, because he'd lived in America. So he said, "Yeah, I'm impressed." And I nearly caught the ball that Joss Buttler won the match with. Actually, it was hitting into the deep wicket crowd, and I was about 5 rows back. So, but I didn't risk anything. I can't catch anymore. So,
listen, we're going to go now, Yoz. But it is worth just.
No, we should go, because it's very late and we've talked enough. But anyway, well played England, well played RCB, leaving just 2 teams now who haven't won the IPL, Delhi Capitals and Punjab Kings. So good luck to them for next year. We'll be back after the T20 series between England and the West Indies, and also got a little extra podcast coming up this weekend with the guest, which I actually promised last week, Nathan Wood, son of Barry Wood of Lancashire in England, talking about the mental side of the game with his new company called Cricket Mind, about mindset coaching, and very important in the modern world, actually, not just for sport, but for life in general. We'll leave you with that.
And an advance notice, really just before we go, is that we have been recording a 6-part podcast series that looks back at the 2005 Ashes series. So it's 20 years since that happened. So look out for that in the coming weeks. It is goodbye from us for now. Goodbye.